Hello, this is John from caveofprogramming.com. In this tutorial I'm going to add a form so that we can have a form where we can submit messages to the user we want to message. Since the last tutorial I created some JUnit tests for our message DAO, and I decided not to bore you with going through those tests because they're not essential to the project. They're just nice to have, and we've been through testing quite a lot already. So I'll let you add some tests if you want to, but according to these tests my code works, so I'm going to assume it's working from now on. So I'll go to my tiles folder here, and we've got this contact.jsp, but it has nothing in it at the moment. Actually it's a complete web page, and it should only be a fragment because we're using it with Apache tiles and with the header and footer from the tiles system. So I'm going to change this into a form, and probably the easiest thing to do to start with is to copy an existing form. So let's go to maybe create offer here, or possibly new account. Either one would do really. I'm just going to copy this form and go to contact.jsp and paste it in there. So that the things we need are, we've got to have the right taglib directives here at the top of the page, as we've seen previously. We're going to use SF, kind of Spring form tags. So I need this taglib with Spring Framework /tags/form here, and I've given that the prefix SF. I think that's possibly all the stuff we're going to need at the moment. I can always copy other taglib directives in later. Let's change the title here to something like send message. And then we've got our usual form tag, and as before I'm using the Spring form tag, which will automatically fill in values in the form if they can't be validated, and we go back to the same form again. So I've given it an ID here. That's I don't know if I'm going to use that or not. Let's maybe get rid of the ID actually for the moment. I can always add it in later if I need it. The method I'll set to post. The action I'm just going to delete because we want this form to submit to the URL it's already on. We're accessing the Webflow system via the URL /message, and we want the form to post back to that URL because everything is going to happen on that URL. Now the command name here, this you'll recall is the name of a bean that is the model backing this form. So in this case, let's set the command name to, I don't know, to message. And this message bean doesn't exist at the moment, but I'm going to set that up in this tutorial shortly. So I've got some just formatting here with like a table. That's not really important, and I'm going to change these controls a bit. So I've got a username here in my form cell. So what do we actually need on this form? We're going to need the same stuff that we've got in the DAO basically. So if I go to source and DAO here, message.java, the same stuff that we need in the bean, the message bean that the message DAO uses. So if I look at that, we're probably gonna want to have ID in there, but I'll leave it for the moment. The things that we definitely need are subject and content. So let's go back here and we'll have a subject, and I'm going to insert suitable paths here. So these should match the names of properties in your model, which is your message bean. So we've got subject and content. Let's fill in subject here, and the name on these input controls doesn't matter. I could just delete it actually. And here we've got an SF errors. I'm going to set that up to work later, so for the moment I'll just change the name of it. So we've got subject and content, let's say your message, and I'll set the path to content and the name here, content. And this should be a text area actually. So let's change the type. Let's change the actual tag in fact to text area. So SF text area. I'll get rid of these for the moment because they look kind of confusing. We're going to need a submit button. The submit button, it doesn't really matter what the name is or anything, as long as it is a submit button. And we're gonna see how to handle the submit event, possibly in the next tutorial. So we've got subject and message, and I've set the path for the errors tag as well. We're going to need name and email, and these are the name and the email of the person who's sending the message. So I'm going to copy this table row here, and actually let's paste this on top, and let's say your name, and the path is going to be name, and I have to change this as well. And I'll paste another one in, and we'll say your email, and again the path is going to be email, and I need to change it for the errors tag as well. That's going to display our validation errors later on, although we haven't got any validation at the moment. And the username I don't need to fill in on a form, because the person's going to click a link on the website associated with an advert, which will take them to the form where they can message the user. So I think that's it for the moment. We've got subject, content, name and email, and the other two are ID and username, but I'm going to deal with those later on at some point in the future, in a future tutorial. Let's format that. Hopefully I've got everything right. So it's pretty simple for the moment. But now one little twist here is I'm going to have a couple of hidden controls on this form, just for the sake of the Webflow system. And one is going to be the event ID, which will determine what happens when we submit the form, but I'll leave that for the moment. The one that we need now is the flow execution key, and that's a key that enables Webflow to know where in the flow we actually are at the moment. So I said that this is all going to be submitted via one URL, displayed and submitted via the same URL along with anything else in this Webflow. So of course you need some kind of parameter that will say where you are in the Webflow, and that's the flow execution ID. So flow execution key, sorry. So I'm going to add here flow. Well, this is actually going to be just a normal hidden input control. So I'm going to type input here, and let's close it. And for the name of it, the name must be underscore flow execution key. And the value I need to set using expression language. So I'm going to set value equals, and we'll type a $, there and the curly brackets. And the value is going to be flow execution key with no underscore. So this variable will be set by Webflow, and having this input, this hidden input here, I need to set the type equal to hidden also actually, will ensure that we that we actually get that parameter being submitted when the form is submitted. And let's close that to make it like a self-contained tag there, and I'll save that. Now we need to deal with this model because it doesn't exist at the moment, and I've called it message. So we need some kind of model with the name message. So I'm going to go to my Webflow, which is in flows in my webinf directory, contact-flow, and I'm going to use the set tag. No, I'm not. I'm going to use the var tag. Sorry. And the name of this var tag, I'm going to give that the name message, which is what I just set in my form here. I said the command name is message for this form. And the class, well, that's going to be the class of my message bean. So I'm just going to, maybe I can right click and go to copy qualified name. I'll try it and paste it in here for the class. No, that didn't work, so I don't want the slashes. I'll copy the package here, copy qualified name, and paste that in. So that's the full package specifier, and I'm just going to say .message. So this is the this is going to, well, I guess behind the scene it sort of creates a bean. But the important thing is here we need this var here to create the model for our form. And then here in my view state, which shows the form, I'm going to set the model attribute equal to message, so the name of this bean or whatever it is. I'll save all that, and just for the moment, just so we can see that that form really is now being backed by the message bean, I'm going to go to message.java, and just as a temporary measure, I'm going to set some values for these fields in my message constructor. So I want to set subject, content, name and email. Username I'm not bothered about because I'm not displaying that on the form. Let's say subject goes here and content goes here. Some name and an email address. So my object here is I just want to see that whatever we have in this model is really going to display in the form, and that will give me some assurance that I have successfully connected the model to the form. Now let's run that. I'm thinking I've probably forgotten something, but I'll give it a go. I'm going to right click and go to run on server, and we'll see if we can go to that form or not, or if some error comes up. So it's loading, and we'll go to /message. Well, I have got some error. Let's take a look at the error trace here, and it says not serializable. Yeah, that's something that I forgot, that all the objects that you work with in Webflow have to be serializable, so all your lists and all your beans and so on. So I'm going to go to message here, and to make it serializable, of course all I do is I say implements serializable, and then I'm going to get this error from Eclipse, well, not an error, a warning about this serial version ID. So I'm just going to get it to generate one, purely because I get sick of seeing that warning. So there we go, although we don't really need this thing. Let's save that and try again, and I'm fairly confident this time. Well, let's say 60%, I think it will probably display. And I'm going to handle form submission, I think, in the next tutorial. So let's go to /message again, and here's my form, and we can see that the dummy stuff that I set in the constructor has been filled in, so we know that that model is really now connected to this form. A couple of little things. This create account obviously shouldn't, this shouldn't say create account, this button. So I'm going to go to contact.jsp, and let's just change it to send message. I'll save that, and now since I know that this is working, I'm going to go to my message.java here and just get rid of this stuff from the constructor. Okay, so that's it for this tutorial, and in the next tutorial, unless I've forgotten some vital intermediate step, we're going to go on to looking at what happens when we submit the form, and how we can go to the next state in the Webflow which we're going to set up. So until next time, happy coding.